Catherine Ham, Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you. The Morning Majority, 630.
WMAL.
8:07 on WMAL. Jonah Goldberg joins us now, founding editor of National Review Online, syndicated columnist. You can read him in the LA Times, and author of Liberal Fascism. And I have to say, thank God for Twitter, because you made me feel a whole lot better yesterday, Jonah. As I was sitting on my couch, my wife gave me a great Father's Day gift, which was essentially, I'm going to take the kids and go to the beach, and you can have the afternoon to yourself and the evening to yourself. So I'm sitting there by myself, just throwing potato chips in my mouth. Got the remote control going from the U.S. Open.
Were you in your boxer shorts sitting around watching TV?
I was exercising a little bit, but then, yeah, I probably was, if you really want to get into that detail. Okay, I didn't know you wanted to. Thank you, Congressman Weiner, for that question.
I'm sorry now that I know that.
But anyway, I'm starting to feel bad about it, Jonah, because, you know, Johnny Miller's on TV saying that there's no greater calling in life than being a father. I'm thinking to myself, well, my kids are with my wife. But then I read on Twitter that your wife gave you a similar gift, or you were allowed to go to a movie by yourself. Is that right?
Yeah, that's become a Goldberg family tradition. I get to go to the movie. I get to go see a boy movie, i.e., a movie that it'd be inappropriate for my daughter and that my wife has no desire to see.
So it's not animated and has no cars or
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. There's no unicorns, and the princess doesn't get the boy in the end.
There you
that
go.
kind of stuff. And it started last summer. I saw the A-Team.
Right.
And I was in line at the movie theater in Georgetown, and I ran into a colleague from Fox News who saw me there, and he had his kids, and he was like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm here alone at the movies because that's my Father's Day present." And the whole line of all these fathers with their kids, it was like this electric news that spread through the whole line. Everyone was like, and there's like a little smattering of applause from these guys. Everyone thought that this was the coolest thing they'd ever heard.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, because I was wondering, I was sitting there saying, is it wrong to want to be alone on Father's Day?
Look, it's a great and honorable calling to be a soldier, right?
Yes.
Serve your country, but every now and then, one of the greatest rewards we give soldiers is a little R&R.
That's right.
That's right. And I got it yesterday, and I enjoyed it. I'm glad to know that there was somebody else out there, so now I don't feel as bad. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I lobbied to have Father's Day extended to Father's Week, but that way
didn't work out that way.
Well, that's what you said as well. It's like it's just the next day, it's like you're back to reality. It's like a demotion the next day.
Pick out the garbage.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I'll be doing later today. All right. So what movie did you see, by the way?
Oh, I saw the X-Men movie.
And did you like it?
Well, I mean, given that it's based on a true story, I thought it was really fascinating. No, I thought it was fine. The hype about it, I think, was a little overdone. But yeah, it's a good movie. It's fun.
All right.
If you like those kinds of movies.
Yeah. John McCain was out yesterday bashing, I don't want to say bashing, but telling Republicans, especially those running for president, hey, we're not going to become the party. We're not going to become an isolationist party anymore. There are still very important things to do in the Middle East, including Libya. What do you make of that? Is John McCain right on that front? Is the Republican Party becoming isolationist?
Look, I mean, I am, for my own sort of unique reasons, on his side about Libya, even though I think it is the mother of all screw-ups. I just think that the consequences of pulling out right now are worse than the consequences of sticking it out, because I think eventually we would kill Gaddafi. But at the same time, I think he's absolutely wrong and almost historically illiterate, except for the fact that I know he knows this stuff, to say that wanting to get out of Libya equals isolationism. I mean, it's just a really... It is a use of isolationist as a term as basically, it's like using the word racist or fascist. It's just a way of bullying people out of positions that they hold. It is certainly not the case that thinking that Libya is a monumental screw-up that we shouldn't have gotten into in the first place, that is not isolationism. I mean, no one who's proposing all of this, proposing getting out of Libya or even getting out of Afghanistan, is also in favor of getting rid of, our hundreds of bases around the world, or raising trade barriers. I mean, that's just not what these people are talking about. And to call it isolationism, which is actually a real doctrine, a real philosophical position, and just to use isolationism as if it's synonymous with bad. If your policy positions are bad, you're an isolationist, and that's just nonsense.
Now, Jon Stewart was on Fox News Sunday this week with Chris Wallace, Jonah, and I'm wondering, he sort of got up on his high horse for our twice-yearly lecture about media from Jon Stewart. Are you a fan of Jon Stewart, and what do you think of his sort of venturing into the media criticism area, which he does every now and then?
Yeah, Jon Stewart and I butted heads pretty roughly once on camera, but I'm actually a fan of his stuff. I think he can be very, very funny. I think he's very talented. He's certainly better as a comedian than 95% of the Democratic Party's own, talking point people. I mean, who would you rather have on your side, him or Debbie Wasserman?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I thought, his defense sort of proves the point about liberal media bias. Basically, he said in a nutshell that when the liberal media or the mainstream media makes mistakes, it's because they're going for. I like how he says the New York Times, sometimes goes for sensationalism. Really? I mean, it's now the Weekly World News. He says that when the mainstream media makes a mistake, it's because it's lazy or it's sensationalist or whatever, but there's no agenda.
Right.
But when the conservative media does things, it's because there's an agenda. And the problem is that most of the stuff that he ascribes to an agenda on the right, to a sort of a memo from some vast right-wing conspiracy, are attributable to the same human failings that happen on the left. I don't think the New York Times gets a memo from the DNC, but they see their interests aligned with the DNC. They see their interests aligned with liberal activist groups. They consider people from the ACLU or the Women's Sports Foundation or the NAACP. Those are the credible experts who get cited as the final authorities on things. And the people from the Heritage Foundation or AEI or Cato, those are the people who are sort of, you have to check a box by talking to them. You find some quote that's not very persuasive, and you move on. And I think that kind of thing happens on both sides. But the idea that somehow the mainstream press has been immune to this, when we've seen for 50 years, the direction that they push the country, that they push politics and all the rest, I just think is nonsense.
Hey, Jonah, I'm just curious, bottom line, do you think the House of Representatives, the Republicans there, will actually yank funding for our escapades in Libya?
No. I think at the end of
the end of the day, they won't?
At the end of I don't know. You talk to some people on the Hill who want to see this through in Libya, and they get very scared that right now there is a chance that you could just sort of spark the herd, frighten the herd, and people just sort of stampede to have a partisan vote that screws Obama and all the rest.
But public opinion polls say that Americans are against this 2-1. How could you ignore that?
I agree. I think it's a real problem. But there's so much hypocrisy on all sides. At the end of the day, the argument that I think persuades a lot of people is you can't screw your NATO allies when NATO has been doing something it doesn't want to do in Afghanistan, to a lesser extent Iraq, for 10 years, and then only after 3 months we sort of say, well, we don't care about this anymore, so you guys in NATO, you go and do whatever you want in Libya. I think that is, I think George Will was right about that. That would sort of pull back the curtain on NATO and show what a joke it is, and we have our own interests in maintaining a certain fiction about the efficacy of NATO that I don't think people are going to want to get rid of. But it's a dicey situation right now. It really is.
All right, Jonah, great to have you on the show. Happy Father's Day. Enjoy it next year as well when you go to the movie by yourself.
Thanks. Next time I'll get to go to a movie by myself.
Yeah, it's a great tradition.
Bye, Jonah.
8:15 on WMAL. We should ask, is that such a bad thing? I mean, is it okay for a father to want to be alone on Father's Day? What are you smirking at? I mean,
I'm not. I'm smiling. Look at me. I'm not indicting you. I think that's yourself indicting.
It is. I felt a little guilty